this video, we will look at why we need recursion. This is a quite difficult topic, and many people cannot get the concept straight away. But if you keep practicing, then the concept becomes clear. So you might be interested why we need recursion. There are many reasons for this. First of all, recursive thinking is really important in programming, and it helps you break down big problems into smaller ones. Often, recursive solution can be simpler to read than the iterative one. Recursion is used all the time, in nearly every field, in nearly every language. If we compare recursive way of writing code with the iterative way, we can easily see that the recursive code is easy to write. Iterative way of code is basically where we use loops. So you might be interested, if it is easier to write code, can we choose recursion over iteration? The answer is no, because there are situations where iteration performs faster than recursion. So it depends on the situation. So when do we choose recursion? A good hint here is that if you can divide the problem into similar subproblems, then you can use recursion. The important point here is the subproblem must be similar. Otherwise, recursion is not a choice. So how can we know that the subproblem is similar in the nature? So when you hear a problem beginning with the following statements, it's often, but not always, a good candidate for recursion. Design an algorithm to compute AND, write a code to list the AND, implement a code to compute all. Finally, the best way to identify a recursive problem is practice. The more problems you do, the easier it will be recognize recursive problems. The second reason to use recursion is the prominent usage of recursion in data structures like trees and graphs. So when we are dealing with trees, the recursion becomes almost mandatory to use. So in the upcoming sections, we will explain tree data structures, and there you will see that without recursion, some operation on trees become almost impossible. But it doesn't mean that you cannot use iteration over there, but in this case, recursion is preferable due to the easier nature to write code. So without learning recursion, the upcoming sections will be extremely difficult to understand. So the third reason is that many big companies ask questions related to recursion during the interview. So to pass these interviews, to get better job, recursion becomes extremely important. Here, at the end of this section, I will explain top questions related to recursion that are asked in the interviews of companies like Apple, Google, Facebook, and Microsoft. So the fourth reason is that recursion is used in many algorithms. As you remember, when we discussed the types of algorithms in one of our previous lectures, we talked about divide and conquer, greedy, and dynamic programming. So the recursion is prominently used in these types of algorithms. So without knowledge of recursions, these topics become very difficult to learn. So now you have an idea of why we need recursion, and hopefully you understand why it's important to us. So see you in the next lecture.